dancing. All right, we're recording. Let's go ahead and get started. For our first interview, we're going to have Lucien de la Vette. We're going to start in the city of Valenrun. It is the capital of Wisteria, which is our home nation that we're going to be a part of. To go off of our reference picture here, this city is built up on cliffs and mountainsides. There are different layers to the city. It expands almost the entirety of a small mountain. A lot of these buildings spire up towards the sky, built by elves a long, long time ago. Towards the bottom of the mountain, we see a lot of menial human workers chopping lumber, doing craftsman-like jobs, or tending to farmland. But we're going to go into the second layer of city, just partway sort of up these cliffs and mountainsides, to the Regio Medius, the home of one Lucien de la Vette. Where would we find Mr. Lucien, and what does he look like? Go ahead and introduce him to us.
Oh. Lucien, I guess if he had to pick a place that this would happen, would ideally choose, I think, the library.
Yeah. I will say, just to slightly amend what I said, it's not necessarily that you know when you're going to have this interview, but just where would Lucien be sort of on an average day at 10 or 11 in the morning before lunch, just out and about in his daily life.
Yeah, after finishing Lucien's breakfast study, he'd probably do his afternoon snack study, and he's probably getting ready for lunch study.
Cool. I'll let you describe him to us and set the scene for where you're at.
So Lucien is below average height of about 5 foot 2 inches and underweight even on top of that. He's barely 18 years of age, and he has a hairless face that's sharp and slightly sunken from a lack of physical exercise and probably a lack of sleep. He does still sport some semblance of core strength, and you can see that there's some dexterous movement or even muscle underneath his long, light robes. He has long plaited and braided hair, and it's tied back in a tight knot, and it kind of cascades back down around his shoulders. He has purplish eyes that pierce out from behind his large circular glasses that constantly need readjusted. He has a few tattoos across his body, most of them based on experiences he has had. He's got a group of stars and a mystic half moon and a full sun on the right side of his neck. Various glyphs line his right arm and his hand, a symbol of the magics he has learned, with plenty of room left for him to learn more. He also carries a few gadgets, books, and other gizmos along his belt, kind of showing off his focus or affinity for astronomy, writing, and alchemical acclamations. He also generally has a very large scroll that floats in front of him and a magic quill that seems to record the ramblings that he talks to himself about while he's working. You can pretty much always hear him mumbling details under his breath as he tries to paint what he feels is the perfect picture of pretty much every detail in every situation. And I think at this moment he would be face down into one of the largest tombs he could find in one of the largest libraries in Valenrun.
And speaking of libraries in Valenrun, there are multiple. I think the one that you would probably spend the most time in, because your family has such a huge acquaintance with it, is actually the Celeste Observatory, where you do have a pretty decent library there. There is another bigger library in Valenrun, but it is a little more for the upper class, if I can say that. So we will move through the city, the various paved roads and streets, the blue elven buildings that decorate the side of this mountain, to the Celeste Observatory, to the wing where the library is, where you would often do your studies and probably practice magic too. Lucien is face down in a book, taking notes, researching, studying, doing his thing. As you were there, you have a couple of the Valenrun city guards who, occasionally watch and protect the library and the different parts of the Celeste Observatory. As you were sitting there reading, one walks up to you with his spear sheathed on his back and a little note in his hand, and he approaches you. You probably don't notice him at first, so he gives a light tap onto the table to let you know that he's there.
And I'd probably hear the tap, and I'd be like, owlbears do have 4 legs, and they do walk. Oh, yes? Yes? How can I help you?
Hey, yeah, owlbears sound real fascinating. I have someone here to visit you. Does the name Amaria Tilanche ring a bell?
Does that name ring a bell?
No?
No? I can't say that it does.
She said she was from a school. He tries to read the note and he says, Ura Lumis?
Oh, yeah, I've been expecting this interview.
Okay, so I should let her in.
Sure, I guess.
Okay, I'll send her your way. Just let me know when you guys are done, and I'll resume post. I'll give you guys some space. He walks away, and there's like the small clinks of his, partial armor that he wears around the city. And then a couple seconds later, a woman approaches. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up her picture. She is definitely on the younger side, probably in her early 30s. She's got long dark hair, beautiful makeup, red lips. She's wearing very sort of business casual style clothes. Valenrun's not super cold, but she's got like the cardigan on. She's got some gloves on her hands, a nice white dress shirt underneath. She approaches you sort of gingerly, but with some confidence, and looks you up and down a little bit, and she says, "Are you, Lucien?"
As the guard walked away, Lucien's face is probably already back in the book, and he's probably like, and the diet consists of fish? Oh, yes, that's me.
Hi, wonderful to meet you. She reaches out her hand. She says, I'm Professor Tilanche. I'm here to interview you.
He, sticks out his hand and, grabs it like this weird claw, awkward shake.
Do you mind if I sit?
Please, there's plenty of chairs.
Wonderful. Okay, she'll pull up a chair to the other side of this desk that you're working on and set down some notes on the table, sort of like scooting some books to the side. And she says, so, we'll keep things nice, professional. I'll be out of your hair in about 10 minutes or so, but let's go over some of the basics first. What program are you going to be a part of at the school?
Well, I hope to be a part of anything that has magic studies, alchemy studies, astronomy, creature studies in particular. That one's important to me.
Yeah, all right, I'm gonna write down wizard. That sounds about right up your alley. And if you're interested in magic, I guess that sort of tells me the answer to the second question. But why Ura Lumis? What draws you there? What reason do you have for wanting to come?
Why Ura Lumis?
Mm-hmm.
Quill, and he looks back to the quill floating. Are you keeping track of this? I don't hear you scribbling. Sorry. That's quite the interesting question. I would reverse the question and instead present my own conundrum. What can Ura Lumis offer me? Valenrun is full of classism, racism, favoritism, oligarchy, and downright corruption. I have dedicated my life to studying various subjects, and I believe I have much to offer to the prestige of this school in the grand scheme. I will make Windweaver and Stormweaver regret not taking a mere human.
Yeah,
so,
I
hope Ura Lumis has quality education and resources for me to accomplish that. If you do, we'll get by just fine, and you'll have nothing less than an intelligent, dedicated student of the arts.
You are going to fit right in with the wizarding program, let me just say.
I thought so.
To answer your question, you answered it yourself. I know of the Stormcaller College. I know of Windweaver Academy. I am friends with a wizarding professor at Ura Lumis who specifically chose to work here because it is more diverse and it's more open. And instead of, whereas Stormcaller might focus on one school of magic and be very particular about the students that they accept, Ura Lumis is open to just about anyone. So people who've never even practiced magic before can come in and then leave among some of the best. So if you're asking me why Ura Lumis should be a good place for you, I think it is because places like Stormcaller and Windweaver will be much more narrow-minded, and not to mention that in our particular wing of the school, we have some of the best wizarding professors, rivaling, if not beating, those two colleges.
Yes, luckily I've done quite a bit of research on my own, and I already know that this was something I wanted. Well, I appreciate that
Wonderful.
explanation.
Yeah, of course. Let's keep on going down the list. And she holds up her clipboard and sort of scribbles some notes on the first section. She says, going down, do you work well with others? Have you had a lot of experience working in groups? This will be a big thing for the school.
There is just a very obvious and almost loud silence as there's hesitation, and the scribbling of the quill stops before it resumes as he speaks. Well, I suppose we all have our weaknesses. People typically don't agree with me. It's not that I'm unwilling to work with them, but people tend to be distractions, often lacking intelligence, wisdom, dedication to the art of magic. People tend to make...
As you go on, she's gonna like sort of lean back in her chair a little bit and take notes on this, looking up at you, making eye contact and nodding, but writing some notes as you go.
People tend to make studying much harder. You know, with talking, and he waves a hand around, and like doing loud stuff. If people just talked less, I think I could make it work.
Yeah, totally understand that. Luckily, when you become a part of a party at the school, a big thing that some will do is they will do their adventures together, which is part of your classwork. But other than that, you can stay completely separate, so your study time will still remain your own. But would you say that that is probably among your largest weaknesses, not having experience working with the team?
I think that that's the biggest.
Wonderful.
There is a particularly important thing that may or may not be important to you, but aside from this whole awkward situation of me talking to you, because talking, I do not like destructive magic. I prefer and will not be partaking in it in anything other than a research-based application. Call me a pacifist, I guess. Violence never solves anything that words or knowledge couldn't do as well.
She takes a moment and sort of reflects over that, and you see some deep thought going on behind her eyes, and she says, yeah, no, hey, your study of magic is just as valid as any other. I will not fault you for it. I don't think it'll be a requirement other than the study and practice, but the actual application of it, I think that's your own choice.
Very well.
Turning to more positive things, what do you think your biggest strength is?
Well, I have a few of those, if I do say so myself. My greatest strengths are definitely studying, magical research in particular, knowledge. I'm pretty good with investigation, though I prefer not to lead an investigation. My deductive reasoning is definitely acceptable. Aside from this, I enjoy creature studies, alchemy, astronomy. My family, in fact, owns one of the areas of study for astronomy in the city. Most of these things I prefer to come together and accomplish a whole.
Excellent. I think the wizarding department is going to love to hear that. Professor Barron has notoriously loved having students who help with the research of magic, not just the practice of it. Continuing, by the time you graduate, what are you hoping to gain from the school, and what are your plans after graduation? So, looking long term, what are some of your goals and plans?
It's very interesting that you mention Isolmifi Baron. I'm assuming that's the one you meant. I'd have spent a great deal of time studying the works and growth and just adventures of him, for what you can find at least. I have a strong desire to craft my own path into magic, and I'm not sure what that will look like, but one day I will rival the greatest lizards no matter the cost. Valenrun and every other city who discriminates against extraordinary minds, or rather anyone in general, will feel regret for all the talent they have squandered year after year here. We deserve the same rights, and I'll show them what they're missing.
That's a good answer. It's a really good answer. So that's honestly, you covered most of the questions. Some of these I can just write an arrow to my other notes, but you answered them all really well. And I could easily just turn this paper in and we could be done. But a big part of the interview is assessing not just the answers, but the personalities and desires of the individual. So, if not for my own curiosity, but for the depth of the interview, what drives you, Mr. Lucien? What inspires you?
And Lucien kind of stands up and knocks the chair back, and it makes this loud crack. And he's like, magic. Everything about the magic is fascinating. I find it amusing that this is even a question in this interview. Every avenue plays a part in the world around us, from the blades of grass outside to the wood the trees are carved from to help make these rooms and these tables. Magic is freedom, equality, discipline, chaos. And he's walking back and forth really fast. Love, life, death. Magic is who I am, and what I will continue to be as I further my own understanding.
Excellent. Well said. I think that is a very solid answer.
He catches himself too, by the way, right here. He's like, I'm walking around, and he sits back down, picking up the chair.
That's totally fine. If it helps you think and express your thoughts, absolutely fine. So you tell me that magic inspires you and that magic is a big thing, and you say that it is freedom and order and chaos and structure, but also fluidity. What specific applications of magic do you find yourself leaning towards? Maybe not specific classifications of magic, but how do you use magic in your daily life, or how do you hope to?
One of the most useful magics that I use regularly are probably Quill here. I like that I can summon him to do whatever I need him to do. I enjoy having my familiar, and it actually kind of, this little black dragon hawk looking combination thing pops up on his shoulder and kind of squeaks at you before I pet it and move it back down. Shh, not right now.
She seems a little startled at first, but then that startledness is replaced by fascination, and she hides it well, being professional, but she does sort of look like, hey, that's pretty cool.
There are certain spells, like, I guess, summoning, that interest me a lot, but it's such a not very broad school of study currently. So I guess if I had to pick something that I really want to focus on developing, maybe I'll find something in there. But illusion magic, following Mr. Baron, is also a respectable goal.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna let Mr. Professor Baron know that you seem interested in that, because that's actually something that's right up his alley. Well, this last thing, and she sort of like sets her notes down, just talking to you at this point, and she says, this is less of a question and more of a word of advice as someone who's a bit more aged in experience. Your passion is admirable. It is incredible, even. I kind of envy seeing that. Having new students come in all the time who have that sort of drive is refreshing. But should you not err to the side of caution, I would like to extend a word of advice to say that you do well to note that most all successful casters, Baron included, they only achieve that title because of their shared respect of magic, both in its capabilities and in its limitations. So, coming to the school, I expect you, being in one of the most capable programs that we have, you say you don't wish to pursue the practice of harmful and destructive magic, but at its core, magic can be harmful and destructive, even if it is harmless on paper.
You see Lucien tapping a finger, and his face is slowly dropping into kind of a scowl, and he just spits it out. Don't confuse me for being arrogant. I'm aware of boundaries and limitations, but I think you know that great things don't happen by always being safe or quilling between the lines. And I think that you're looking for something great, and maybe, just maybe, someone who draws new lines.
Maybe. I think that'll be a conversation between you and Professor Barron when you come to school in a couple weeks.
Very well.
Well, it has been wonderful meeting you, Mr. Lucien de la Vette. Keep up the good work here, and prepare yourself. Ura Lumis is a school, nonetheless, but it is not all books and studying. So I hope to see you succeed to your highest potential there.
Lucien will kind of do a polite nod, and he slowly slinks back into his book and begins mumbling other things he's reading.
Professor Tilanche stands and tidies up the space that she was taking up, pushes the chair back in, gives a curt nod, and walks away. As she's leaving, you hear her thanking the guard for, showing her around, and they both exit the building. And you are left to your studies, to your research, with the knowledge that school starts in just a few short weeks.
Lucien will do one more thing before we close out. Lucien speaks a couple words, Minor Tiratios, and this small swirl of wind dances between his fingertips, and he directs it to the table where she was sitting, kind of cleaning it with prestidigitation, without removing his eyes from the book.
Just not even looking, cleaning up. Everything needs to be organized and tidy. And with that, we zoom out, seeing the entire expansive city of Valenrun, covering this cliff, this short range of mountains here. The silver fir trees expand as far as the eye can see. And Mr. Lucien is left to his studies.